Ezio Auditore. Brave of you to stand alone against me, but also quite foolish. Assassin.
What an epic trailer. Welcome back, guys, to Assassin's Creed Ranked, or Graded, however you want to say it. I am the Raven Knight, and with me again is my brother Leggett Lark. We're going to be taking a look at the next game in the Ezio trilogy, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. If you haven't watched our graded and ranked videos on Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed 2, then you may not understand what's going on in this video. For a brief synopsis, what we're doing is me and Lark are playing through all of the Assassin's Creed game in order of release and chronological order as best we can in terms of their release dates, and we are basically grading each one and ranking them based on criteria that we've set aside, and then deciding which games are the absolute best S tier and which ones are the bottom F tier, just awful to play. And this time we're looking at a old favorite of ours, Brotherhood, and after playing it again, I gotta say, some things really stayed awesome and stood the test of time. Other things, well, I suppose we'll get to that. So, as always, we grade these based on 4 criteria. The story, like how the game progresses, how you play through it. The history of it, because it is based on historical stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. So we got to make sure we get that right. And then we look at gameplay. Does it evolve as gameplay? Is the gameplay good? Is it solid? And then finally, the characters. How do the characters hold up? Do we enjoy them? Are they memorable? All that kind of stuff. So let's not waste any time and get right into the story. So the game picks up right where Assassin's Creed 2 ended, where Ezio is in the vault beneath the Vatican Church in the Castel de San Angelo, I believe, or the Sistine Chapel. No, it was the Sistine Chapel. And he just finished talking to Minerva, escapes Rome, gets back to Monteriggioni, only for Cesare Borgia, the Commander General of the Papal Guard, to step in and destroy Monteriggioni. And now Ezio's without his armor, his tools, his allies, all of it gone. He has to flee to Rome to try to fight back against the Borgia and defeat them. And I think that this is funny to me, because the whole reason this happened is because he refused to kill Rodrigo Borgia at the end of Assassin's Creed 2. And they play this up like he made the right decision. Like, I made the right decision. He wasn't worth killing.
The Spaniard lives. Once our enemies are dead, we can speak of vaults and gods and ancient places. You should have killed him. We're sure to suffer for it.
I am not here to debate the past. Together, we should discuss the future.
No. I am leaving immediately for Rome.
Ezio, I do not know why you spared him, but I trust your judgment. Machiavelli will come around.
Lark, maybe you'll disagree with me on this, but that seemed kind of stupid.
Well, let's see. Considering Rodrigo Borgia, or Alexander VI, is one of the worst popes to ever exist, I think he would have been doing the world a favor by going. I'm with Machiavelli on this one.
Yeah.
You should have like, he was right there. You whack him. I would have been okay with it if, like, at the end of it, like the end of Assassin's Creed 2 or whatnot, he had just sort of run up against like the thing, like banging on like the Forerunner sites or whatever, and he just got zap fried and. He just thought he was dead when actually he was just unconscious. That would have been fine. I would have been okay with that. But no, just like, no. Like, killing you won't bring my family back. Like, yeah, neither will, like, all the other people you just, like, you bodied through. And now suddenly you're like, nah, I've evolved above this.
But what bothers me is he acts like sparing Rodrigo was a good thing. his uncle's dead. Monterigione's destroyed. He lost all of his armor and weapons. Caterina Sforza gets captured. All of this goes down because you didn't kill the guy. Niccolo was 100% right when he said, we're sure to suffer for this decision. So, anyway, so he gets to Rome. He meets up with Niccolo Machiavelli again, and he discovers that the Assassin's Creed position in Rome is really, really weak. The Borgia are an awful influence on the city. They're basically destroying everything. They're evil tyrants. And so your goal is to, first of all, rebuild the underground of the city. You know, you got to help the whorehouse. You got to help the thieves. You got to help the mercenaries. Then you got to rescue Caterina Sforza from the Papal Guard, get her out, and rebuild the Assassin's Order from the ground up and slowly start to break down the Borgia influence. That's essentially the story. And let me be very clear about the story here, guys. It's not bad, but compared to the other games, I felt it was really lackluster. Hear me out. The game is riddled with side quests, and we'll talk about that when we get to gameplay. But if you just played for the story alone, just for the, working your way from point A to point B, it's incredibly short, incredibly simplistic. No one changes. No one evolves. The only thing that changes is a few people die and you take out the Borgia family. That's not changing of character. It's just, you beat the bad guys.
Actually,
you do that with Mario.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I remember playing Brotherhood a lot as a kid, and I was in high school, but I always remember not really giving a crap about the story, and I was just running around shivving people.
Yeah.
I was basically, like when you play Grand Theft Auto and you just go around guns blazing. That's kind of what I was doing, but in the Italian Renaissance. Mm-hmm. And I had a great time, but I wasn't there going, oh man, this story. I remember some of the characters, but the story as a whole is, I won't say forgettable, because it's too short to be forgettable.
Exactly, and that's the thing. You almost, for example, in the previous game, you recognize some of those people you killed. But with these guys, think about this for a second. When you go after someone in Assassin's Creed 2, usually you see what kind of evil they're doing before you take them out. You hear from people what awful things they're doing. With this one, you don't even see what awful things they're doing. Like the banker, the first guy you have to kill, you don't even know what the dude looks like until you see him at the, end screen, right before you're going to kill him. And he's just some fat redhead dude.
Money for you, banker.
I will take that. And that. You are dismissed.
Where did I put my coin purse?
Onoratissima.
Welcome to my party. I am Juan Borgia.
Cesare is about to speak in the main room, Eccellenza.
Come.
It's just...
The term is cardinal.
Okay. But in any case, I think that was my big problem with the story. Nothing really changed, and I felt like it got so bogged down in side quests, you almost forgot about the story.
Well, I think heaven thanks for those side quests.
Because, I know, right?
Because they kept the game a little bit fresh.
Yeah.
Some later games are going to forget all about side quests.
We'll save. That's for a later game. For a later game. Yes. But so for story, and again, don't get me wrong, the story's good for what it is, and it's just not as good as what we're going to get later.
It's not as good. There are some parts I genuinely do enjoy about the story, because it's particularly the characters working off of each other again. We'll get to character, I know, but seeing them work together in the story is just kind of this is nice. I encourage, at least view the story at least.
Yes.
As DLC for Assassin's Creed 2. That is the best way to look at the Ezio trilogy, in my opinion, and Brotherhood in particularly. But yeah. That's how I'd say overall story, I'd probably give it a B.
I would have to agree. I'd have to go B on this one. It's not a bad story. It just didn't feel as whole or fleshed out or expansive as the previous game. It's just a game of Ezio loses everything, ends up in Rome to take out the evil bad guys. No real growth of character. Nothing really changes about the characters. The only thing that we could say changes is that Ezio is officially named the mentor of the assassins.
Niccolo, but you are exactly what the Order needed. You have led the charge against the Templars and rebuilt this Brotherhood. Now we must put Ezio where he belongs, at the head of the assassins. Ezio Auditore da Firenze. You will now be known as Il Mentore, the guardian of our order and our secrets.
But
Well,
seeing as he kind of already was the one that everyone was answering to anyway, I feel like he kind of already had that by default.
He kind of already did, but now he was actually. But now it's good, but because you get to see him do that now instead of like now he's like the young buck assassin that's now rising the ranks. Now he's like now I'm the big man on campus.
Correct. But it's still an enjoyable story. It's just not as good as what we had.
I also will give him this. For a man who lost everything a second time, he took the second time relatively well.
Yeah, he was pretty cool with that, wasn't he?
Loses his family. I'm gonna hunt them down. Loses his uncle, who practically was a second father to him, and his new hometown. Well, I guess we gotta go do what we gotta do.
He handled Mario's death really well, didn't he?
Well, to be fair, Mario went out the way he would have wanted to go.
So consider this an invitation from my family to yours.
Being shot in the back of the head.
Eating Oh, you're talking about that. Mario's like, pulls out one of those one-up mushrooms. Fools. He will be back.
All right, so let's move on to history. This part, Lark, you're probably going to be a little bit more knowledgeable than me on because the Renaissance and Rome itself are kind of your forte. But I will say this. Some things about the history in this I thought were very clever, like with Leonardo and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Here's the thing. Leonardo shows up again in this game. You get a lot of historical figures in this game, but Leonardo shows up again, and instead of being a prominent figure, all he does is he's really the guy, he's really your Q. You know, you go to him to get your new weapons and gadgets and stuff. He only gives you 3 though, which really sucks. He gives you 3. He gives you your second assassin's blade. He gives you that back to you. He gives you a poison dart launcher, and he gives you a climbing glove, which helps you climb better. That's all he gives you until you do his missions. He gives you 4 missions that you have to do to destroy his war machines. And there's some historical accuracy there because Leonardo da Vinci was held captive by the Borgia and forced to design war machines for them. The problem is most of his war machines, if any, were never actually built. And so in the game, you have to go destroy the war machines that he has built and destroy the blueprint so that they're never used again. In reality, they were probably never built. And then when you destroy all 4 of those, he gives you his ultimate invention, a parachute.
Dun, dun,
dun, dun.
Yeah. That's one of the interesting things about, because Leonardo, historically, he was held captive for a while, and he was forced to design weapons. And what's some of them, like the tank in particular, look eerily close to what he actually was designing. And, there are some weapons that, he designed that you could argue maybe they would actually work. He would have developed something along the lines of, a multi-shot cannon that people speculate may have worked. And there are others you could tell he was just trying to flip them the bird and half-assing it. Yeah, I built you a giant crossbow. Build that. That's never gonna work. You talking? You hired? Kidnap me? Of course I'm gonna give you my best effort, you a-hole. But Leonardo is just the tip of the iceberg. The Borgia portrayal is maybe not entirely historically accurate, but considering the mythology around the Borgia and the Borgia is probably one of the most hated families that ever crawled out of Italy. The nonsense they got up to is ridiculous. When Alexander VI, Rodrigo Borgia, died, they literally sealed off the parts of the Vatican where he chilled out for they sealed that off for 100 years. So no one goes in there. We are going to pretend none of that happened. Okay?
You got to keep in mind that at this point in time in history, the papacy, the Vatican controlled Rome. Okay? There was no Rome governing body and the Vatican was off to the side. No, the Vatican was what owned Rome, and so the Borgia really were the tyrants of Rome at the time. But yeah, a lot of this other, for example, they talk about how Cesare and Rodrigo and Lucrezia had a very weird family dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I guess they were taking inspiration from the ancient Roman emperors of old, and they took Caligula's life a little too literally as an example to follow, which I don't know why you would, but they did. So that's some craziness there.
Cesare.
Lucrezia. I hope you have treated our guest with kindness.
That mouth on her. How I'd love to sew it shut.
I rather like it open myself.
Oh.
Have you talked to the Pope about the funds requested by my banker?
He is away from the Castello, and he might need some convincing when he returns.
That shouldn't be a problem, should it?
No. Only it gets quite lonely here. You and I spend so little time together these days, busy as you are with your other conquests.
Soon. Once I have secured the throne of Italia,
You are going to be my queen. And your loneliness will be a thing of the past.
I cannot wait.
behave yourself while I am gone.
Dad! Stop! I know where it is!
And you did not tell me he had taken it?
Cesare, it's me, your queen.
You are my sister, nothing more. Where is it?
You never loved me?
But then there's some also the places where they sort of kind of fall short, in my opinion.
Like what?
Like, for example, and this also, I think you could tie back into a story issue too, like Bartolomeo.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Bartolomeo is an interesting character because he is actually a real condottiere. He did exist. And in Assassin's Creed 2, he fits in perfectly because he worked for the Venetian government for a good deal. Now, in the time span of the game, in the time span of Brotherhood, I've found no record of him being in Rome. He might have been, but because he did work for the Papal States at one point. But he predominantly worked for Venice. He also worked for the King of Spain for a brief period of time. But the big thing in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood is he and his mercenaries are fighting against a French army in Rome. Cesare literally hired the French army to come into Rome just to tangle with one mercenary group. I find that it seems like we're sort of like stretching, like, hey, we really want to include Bartolomeo, but
we're stuck in Rome,
yeah, so we're gonna stretch a little bit. I mean, there are some things that do resonate true to history, because there is one instance where you have to disguise Bartolomeo's forces to go and sneak up on the French. Bartolomeo actually did disguise himself at one point to actually win a battle. There's also, they have to pretend he's captured by the French. In actual history, there was a battle where he was captured by the French. So there are some parallels with real history, but it is a little, but it's kind of stretches the suspension of disbelief. The only thing that saves it is Bartolomeo is just such a fun character.
He really is.
Ezio Auditore! Come in, come in! I'll kill you if you don't.
Bartolomeo.
Yeah.
But overall, as far as history is concerned, the way the Borgia, they may not have been that oppressive or oppressive in that way, but it's close enough that I'm going to say that I give history overall a B.
Okay, B. I think B is fair too.
I think B is fair. It gets good thing, but it's kind of about what you would expect for Assassin's Creed. It takes just enough of the history to make you go, ah. And this one, it's not quite as good as 2, but overall, I think, considering that this was a sequel game that I probably weren't expecting to make, I think they did all right for themselves.
Yeah, I'll give it that. And you know what? I'll agree with that. The history, I think, falls into a B. It wasn't fantastic, but it wasn't anything egregious either, as we'll see with later games.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to gameplay now. This is where things really shine through in a lot of great ways. Gameplay, okay, so first of all, they fixed a lot of previous errors with the old game. For example, fighting feels a lot more fluid now. Instead of just doing a counter kill and then you wait for the next counter kill, you have kill streaks now. You can now kill a guy, then kill the closest guy, then kill the next closest guy, then kill the next closest guy. That way the combat keeps flowing, you can keep moving faster. Yeah. That makes things feel a lot more interesting.
Because the thing is, you're not trapped in Rome with the guards. They're trapped in there with you.
Correct. And that's fun. The climbing is still kind of the same, although I'll admit there are moments where
I would actually I rate the gameplay in Brotherhood relatively high, but I think the thing that keeps it from getting the highest achievement is, one, the climbing still feels a little wonky at times.
Yeah.
And also the hit registration for sometimes you and me have both played through the game where we're okay, Ezio, want to tell me why you decided to do that when that's not what I told you to do?
Legitimately, when I was going after one target, I walked up to him and I hit the assassinate button like 3 times and nothing happened. I adjusted my position a little bit and then ended up stabbing a dude right next to him, which caused me to desynchronize. And I was like, why? It was the weirdest thing.
And she was just like, that guy ticks me off. And there are some other, like for me, the biggest thing wasn't hit risk. Like, it's the climbing always, because I cannot tell you how many times I played like the original Go Sneak In to Save Katarina mission, and I'm like, all right, Ezio, jump into the river. No, do not jump in the river. Danny jumped in the river.
Yeah.
That happened to me so many times. It's irritating. Like the combat, French kiss, or chef kiss, I guess. But the climbing, about the same, if not a little bit worse. But the pièce de résistance. The assassins.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So this game introduced a new mechanic. You can, every time you go, when you go around Rome, you'll notice that certain regions of Rome are controlled by Borgia towers. If you kill the commander of that tower and then burn down the tower itself, you will have the option to walk around Rome and find a man or woman being harassed by the Borgia guards. If you save them from the Borgia guards before they get killed, you can recruit them as assassins, or assassin recruits.
The liberation of Roma has begun.
I thank you. It would be an honor to fight alongside you, Signore.
And they start out at level 1. And as you send them on missions around Europe, or as you have them assassinate for you in game, they will gain more levels, which means that they gain more weapons and armor, making them much better and better until they reach the final level, level 10, where they become full-on assassins and will help you in combat in a real way, like almost unkillable warriors. And you can have a certain number of these assassins at one time, and gosh, if it isn't so cool to just recruit a new assassin. Me and you used to play a game. We used to try to get an even number of men and women, and there was one time. Didn't it happen in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood? You recruited this one dude.
Oh gosh!
You recruited this one dude. He was so ugly. Like he had a
pedo mustache. Looking at this dude, like, you are a disgrace. Run off to Constantinople and do this impossible mission. I await news of your death.
He had like a 12% chance of success.
No, it wasn't even that. It was like 6% chance. And then I get a notification like 10 minutes later, he's back, and he's now a level 8. I was like, no! And so I sent him out to do another one, and then he comes back full rank, and I was like, I ain't even mad anymore. You have proven yourself among the assassins. It's like, wait, you hated me? It's like, shh. That's in the past.
Yes, it is so funny. But yes, that was the best part about the game for me. The ability to recruit and use assassins like that. And that would be something later games would use to great effect. We'll talk about them more when we get to Revelation.
Yeah. 2 later games will really use it. 1 will use it to great effect. I'll get to the other one later.
Exactly.
But
okay.
But another thing is, like, there's more things you can do, because, like, there's a bit of a power trip you feel just strutting along the way on Rome. You start seeing some guards doing some shady stuff. They're messing with you. Clench your fist. Out come you boys and girls. Whack them. And if you've gotten 6, you can unlock Arrow Storm, which basically means anybody that you do not like within, like, say, a 20-yard radius of you is about to get effed.
Exactly.
It's glorious. Like, and you see it happen in the trailer. It's just... And, of course, they actually give you the balls. They have the guts to let you, briefly, albeit, use an actual piece of Eden. So you get to strut through the streets of Rome just going, "Kneel, mortals, your emperor comes."
There was that moment where you got to use the piece of Eden briefly. But let's get back to the rest of the gameplay stuff. Okay, so they also give you access to new things, such as you can customize your cape color and your armor color a little bit. You now get a crossbow. You can purchase a crossbow to use, which
finally,
is really nice.
We've been waiting since 1.
We got our crossbow. We also got new armor. You get shop quests now. One thing they added now is, unlike in the last game, even though you could buy stuff, you couldn't sell stuff. But now you can potentially pick up items to sell, which increases your revenue, or you can collect them to go on shop quests to get exclusive things, which can help buff your character.
Yeah, that's another reason to send assassins out on these missions, because they can occasionally come back with stuff that's otherwise hard to find, because you're not finding Buddhist prayer beads anywhere in Rome, and...
Actually, I did find some.
Oh, you did find some?
Yeah.
For me, it goes by that game logic. It's like, the more you need this item,
the less likely
you are to find it. It goes off of Monster Hunter logic.
Now let's talk about some of the stuff that isn't as good. I mean, We could talk about other stuff like the diversity of weapons now. Like, for example, you can get a heavy sheath, which is cool. But let's talk about this for a second. Okay, so, problem. There are a few issues. First of all, like we said earlier, the main quest line is incredibly short. So to try to disguise this, the game feeds a bunch of side quests. Like, you've got side quests to do for the courtesan, side quests to do for the mercenaries, side quests to do for the thieves guild. You've got repressed memories of when you're dealing with Leonardo going missing thanks to Templar agents. You have to do a side quest to remember your past with Christina. You do side quests about how Ezio meets Copernicus. You do side quests about meeting... you do side quests for so many things. Everywhere you go, there's some new side quests you have to do. And you know what? I wouldn't mind that so much, except for the fact that so many of these side quests feel forced. Like, for example, the Christina side quests. Let's say that you do all of them. You go through all of them. What do you get out of it? A little bit of extra history about Ezio? You don't get, like... What if you got something for it? Like, maybe you got a special weapon for it, or a special set of armor, or maybe you get Christina's skin so you can run around killing people as Christina.
That'd be cool, but I think that's really should do after you complete it. Like, new ability unlock, depress.
New ability depression. So that bothered me. I feel like it just wasn't worth doing. If you just said, I don't want to do these, you could go right by them.
It's a nice little nod to the novelization of Assassin's Creed 2. I will give them that. But it's kind of just like, I remember I had to make a particular point of going to do them, because I think I only ever did 2 missions myself, and after that I was like, oh, it's over there.
I don't care, yeah.
Shiv time.
Yeah, literally, they didn't give me any real reason to, like, I wish they'd said, if you complete all these, you'll get this or this, but they don't. And they should have. They should have given me an incentive to do it, which leads to my next problem. The Animus Training Center. One thing that they added in this game, and I haven't seen it in any other Assassin's Creed game, is they added a training center where, you can go into the Animus's data files and just do, like, little test-yourself games to test your kill streak efficiency, your silent kill efficiency, all this stuff to try to win bronze, silver, and gold medals. Let me be very clear. This was such a non-issue that after you do the first one for Rebecca, like the tutorial, you never do it again. I've never seen anyone who said, you know what, I'm going to take a break from the story of me shivving people in Rome and fighting the Borgia to run around in a pale white void killing guards for no reason just so I can get little gold coins.
Yeah, I did it once just to see what it was after, and I was just like, nah.
And this is boring. And then that leads to my other big problem. Okay, and we'll get more into this with character. In the second game, at the halfway point, they pulled you out of the Animus for story purposes, which gave you time to meet Sean, Rebecca, and Lucy. In this game, they never force you out of the Animus. You actively choose to pause the game and leave the Animus yourself. Now, I encourage you to do this, because every so often when you leave, you will have emails to read. You can run around modern-day Montergione and pick up some cool things and just see what it looks like now. And you can talk to Sean, Rebecca, and Lucy and get some very funny, very character-building dialogue, which helps you appreciate their characters more.
I'm back.
Just in time. The sun's rising.
Yes, it's booted. We're good to go.
Did you miss me? No? Anyone? Hello? Am I speaking out loud? Hello? Workaholics.
Let's get started.
I enjoy this, but let's be very clear. If the game never reminds you, oh, by the way, there are things going on outside the Animus, would you even bother? Let's face it, we don't come here for Desmond and the others. We don't come to these games for the modern day. We come for the history. We come for the gameplay itself of running around a historical battlefield and killing people. So there is no incentive and no reminder for us to say, you know what, let's see what's going on outside the Animus. There is no incentive, there's no drive, there's no reason, which I think is a bad thing because it means you miss out on potential opportunity to meet and understand characters more. Like, if you didn't leave the Animus in Brotherhood, you'd miss some very funny scenes with Sean and Rebecca and Lucy. But that's just me. I don't know. What do you think, Lark?
I think that, yeah, those are some design flaws there. However, overall, when it comes to the gameplay, I'd say with those minor things, and the only other thing that I might add is the detection system of the guards. Like, it was present in 2, but I think it's worse in Brotherhood, where the guards are almost psychically linked, where it's like, you can't be detected. Okay, you go to stab someone, he sees you the nanosecond as your blade goes into his throat, and so he can't scream, he can't yell. But somehow, every other guard in the vicinity suddenly knows something's going down, and then you get desynchronized.
Yeah.
But that's an irritation. Overall, I think the gameplay gets an A.
Yeah, I would agree. The gameplay does get an A. Even after all the bad stuff we said, there's still so much good. The assassins recruiting, the way you can use the mercenaries and the courtesans and the thieves, poison darting people. The Leonardo missions are a ton of fun to do.
Yeah, particularly the tank. Oh, baby.
Oh, I love the tank. I love the machine gun. They were all a lot of fun. It's just a very creative ride. The only bad things I'll say is way too many side quests. And you never have any incentive to leave the Animus unless you make yourself.
Yeah, I would say it's just a few things that keep the gameplay from being truly S tier, but I give it overall an A.
Alright, so let's move on to the final thing. We've talked about story, history, and gameplay. Let's talk characters. Alright, so once again, we're going to start off with Ezio and the others. The problem that I have with the characters here, most of the primary characters don't get any growth. Like, for example, you got Ezio, but he doesn't change much. Ezio still stays the charming, enjoyable character we know and love, which is good. I think he didn't need to change in this game, because his job is mentor. He's showing himself to be the proper leader of the assassins, but at the same time, there's no end goal that I really care about. Like, for example, he chose not to kill Rodrigo Borgia, even though Rodrigo Borgia was responsible for the death of his family. Rodrigo now sends his son to kill Mario and destroy Montergione. What makes me think that this crime will make him want to kill Rodrigo anymore? Like, what motivation does he have? Yes, he says he wants to end the Borgia influence, but he never talks about killing Cesare and Rodrigo. In fact, there comes a moment when you have to rescue Caterina Sforza. Niccolo reminds him, you're here to kill Cesare and Rodrigo. And he goes, if the opportunity presents itself.
They are going to torture her.
You are here for Cesare and Rodrigo.
Caterina is a powerful ally. If we help her now while she is weak, she will aid us in return.
Perhaps. But kill Cesare and Rodrigo first.
Clearly showing that's not my first priority. I'm like, Ezio, what's your title? Assassin. What does that mean you do? You assassinate. And you're the first assassin I've ever heard say, I don't think I should kill him. I don't think I should kill those tyrants who are clearly trying to take over the world. I'd much rather get some whoopee with Caterina Sforza, which I don't blame you for. But
one cannot blame for that.
I felt like he was while he was still a fun, charming character, he had good moments. I felt like, I don't know.
I think what they were trying to go for was like sort of the idea that Ezio was sort of like, I'm not doing this for a personal vendetta. I'm not doing this just for the sake. I do what needs to be done when it needs to be done.
Yeah.
And I think there's an like he's finally matured to that degree. It's just it doesn't unless like you've read up on Assassin's Creed a great deal. It doesn't quite show as much, and because. From the the first couple times I played, I'm going, yeah, why don't you just kill him? I think we could solve a lot of problems there. And the real reason is, well, because the game be over.
Right. Okay, so moving on from that, Niccolo Machiavelli gets a lot more time in this game.
Yep.
I think he was presented well.
His wardrobe is greatly updated too.
Yeah, and I think that he presented well. Like I said, I thought that he
Virtu.
Like he was done well. He acts a lot like what I'd expect Machiavelli to act like. Claudia gets a lot more in this. Yeah, she really blossomed as a character, for sure.
In more ways than one.
Well, not just because she looks better, but because, she actually wants things. She puts herself in the spotlight. She tries to make things happen. I like that. But that's it for the really outstanding characters.
We also see as I mentioned, Bartolomeo again, and he's fun. And that's the thing. The characters don't get as much development as they do in 2, because most of these characters are reoccurring, but it is nice to see the characters interact and work off of each other.
But isn't that kind of sad at the same time? Because they're all just the same characters. It's just La Volpe, it's just Bartolomeo. You don't meet a new mercenary captain, you don't meet a new Thieves Guild leader. It's La Volpe, it's Bartolomeo, it's Claudia. It's the same people.
Yeah, it's the same people, and I would like to see some, more new characters. However, it's refreshing to see the older characters again and seeing them interact and work off of each other again.
For sure.
I do like that.
And however, I like seeing Bartolomeo's wife. She was cool.
Oh, yeah. That was... So we did get some of the characters.
Yeah.
But... And also, just like... I always goes like, Ezio, come in. I'll kill you.
That
just,
was...
like, just his personality is... It's... You gotta love it. And so much so you can even put away the historical inaccuracies.
For sure.
But there's also, like, we do get new characters. We get new enemies to go after.
Yes, we get the banker.
Who's a fat F.
He was annoying. He was just like, oh, he exists. And I think the problem with him is, like, you know, with Assassin's Creed 2, you at least saw some of the ideology behind some of the people you killed. With the banker and the French general's the only one we kind of dove a little into his ideology.
Because he wanted to gain respect.
And he thought that by commanding soldiers, he would. But with the banker, it's just, he's a fat, greedy slob. Okay. And then you had another guy, Micheletto, who was like this butcher that Cesare hires to kill people. You don't even kill him. You spare him. Like, again, Ezio, what's your deal? And he goes, I'm not yet dead. And he goes, a man who spends his whole life trying to uplift others is a servant of his own destruction. I'm like, no, kill him.
Listen, I know, but be merciful here because he's about to get on the wrong side of Lucrezia and Cesare, so trust me, shivving him now is a blessing. Unless like you really just hate this dude enough to let Cesare go.
And then you got Lucrezia, who was a bitch, but...
There's a reason for that. But,
yeah, she's had it rough.
But now we can get to the delightful slice of ham and cheese that is Cesare.
Father, do you not see? I control all of this. If I want to live, I live. If I want to take, I take. If I want you to die, you die!
Oh, Cesare.
I love that they got Daubeny again to voice this guy. He is just so bombastic. Like, he is like if Rodrigo Borgia was like sort of the Emperor Palpatine, the sort of calm and reserved, like the I'm sort of planning everything in the background. This goes the other side of the spectrum where he's completely bombastic. We're gonna F you up. We're gonna come over there and we're gonna destroy everything you love and hold dear. And it's just, I can't even say I hated him so much. It's like, oh, every time he's on screen, I'm like, oh yeah, I get.
Well, what I think is funny about him is he's clearly not even a Templar.
Yeah,
like Rodrigo chastises him on a few occasions, saying, you're ruining everything we've been working towards. And that's why Cesare, spoiler alert, that's why Cesare kills Rodrigo. Because Rodrigo was standing in his way of ultimate power.
And Rodrigo literally tried to poison him.
Yes. He was like, screw you, Cesare. But Cesare was just so much fun. Whenever you play For Honor and they do the Assassin's Creed event, it's always Cesare and Ezio. And there's a reason, because Cesare is memorable as a villain. He was fun, okay? I really liked him as a villain. I mean, just think about it. In his own trailer, he sniffs his own sword. Why does he sniff his own sword?
Tabascus asked the same question.
But in any case, awesome villain. Not as cool as Rodrigo, but
like Rodrigo's the one that you're gonna probably like. You could write a full-on paper like a thesis about like the idea of like the maniacal villain, like. And then there's the but Cesare, he's the one that you laugh at. He's the one you go, hey,
Cesare. But yeah, I think that about sums up all the characters. So how would we grade characters?
Characters, I would go so far as to say B, because the old characters recurring are good. Cesare is great. The other, like some of the lesser bad guys, they really don't hold as much presence as you remember the Pazzi. Like you can't forget those guys. And the guys in Venice, they're great villains in their own right. These guys, I remember the banker because he's fat.
Yeah. I remember the French general because he was pompous.
And that mustache.
That was mostly because Bartolomeo was...
Yeah, I remember because Bartolomeo was around, not because of any other reason. And I legit, when I walked in on you playing and I saw you doing that mission where you go after the Borgia Butcher, I completely forgot he was in the game.
Same.
I remembered the mission, but I was like, oh yeah, who are you trying to... Oh yeah, that dude. Oh, he exists!
Doesn't that tell you a lot of the problem, though? It's like, these characters... They were building this game up on nostalgia. It's like, hey, you remember Bartolomeo, you remember La Volpe, you remember Claudia, you remember Caterina Sforza, you remember Rodrigo. These are characters you like. Well, yes, they are. What about the new characters? Other than Cesare?
It's, yeah, I'd say so. Overall, B.
I'd say a B. And so I'd say that rounds out our score to an average...
B.
Yeah,
maybe B plus, depending on how well you can handle the climbing. Overall, it's a fun experience.
For sure.
If you're going through the Ezio trilogy, I don't say pass through it. It's the weaker, I think it's the weakest of the Ezio trilogy.
For sure.
But at the same time, it's still Ezio. It's still a heck of a lot of fun, and it introduced a lot of mechanics into Assassin's Creed.
Oh, before we close, though, there is one more thing we need to talk about. That ending.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so essentially... For those who do not, again, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
However,
you have been given your spoiler alert. All right, I had to do that. So they find the piece of Eden under the Colosseum. You go to get it, and when you do, one of the Isu step in. They freeze time and then take control of your body to stab and kill Lucy.
Doing?
The path must be opened. You cannot escape your part in this. The scales shall be balanced.
Stop! Please!
You know very little. We must guide you. Cease your struggle.
No!
It is done. The way lies all before you. Only she remains to be found. Awaken the sixth. Go, alone!
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so when that was kind of the first big Assassin's Creed, what the moment, like, you don't understand why it happened, and the game ends on that note. It ends with you killing Lucy, and you're like, why? What happened? What happened? And I would honestly say that was a cool way to end it, because it sets you up for the next game, if it wasn't for the fact that later games butchered that scene.
Well, the thing is, the next game is going to be all good. It's going to be okay, because it still kind of keeps the mystery alive. And the game after that
ruins it.
But
ruins it.
I will discuss more of that in
ruins 3. It.
To quote SpongeBob, silent!
But okay, there, we got that out of the way. Okay, and just to reiterate, we hate the Isu. We hate them to death.
Just because no person has ever pulled up an Assassin's Creed game and go, oh boy, I can't wait to interact with the Isu. Oh, that's what I get out of the bed for every day, just to talk about those assholes.
Anyway, I think that wraps things up. So, B for Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
B for Brotherhood.
B for Brotherhood. Look forward to next time when we talk about the final game in the Ezio trilogy and one of our personal favorites.
Oh, yeah.
Assassin's Creed Revelations. Look forward to it, guys. We'll see you there. I'm Raven, and this is Lark. We'll see you in our next video.
Take care, guys.